We're standing in the most unequal county in the United States. And I think this block is a really interesting place to see all of that in action because behind me you have the Lillian walled houses, and on the other side you have a luxury building that's still not quite filled up.
This is Red Square. It's an apartment building that was built at the fall of communism. There's two unique things about this building. On the top, if you look up, if you notice the numbers on the clock, that was modeled off of a piece in the MoMA collection by M & Company. And then to the left of the clock is Lenin. Notice he faces towards the Lower East Side and towards Wall Street, which is like capitalist and socialist center of New York.
We all share the subway system. 5.5 million people per day ride the subway. It's the largest shared urban infrastructure. We use this technique and this method to swab the whole subway system. We take these, we go back to the lab, extract all the DNA, break apart the cells, and then from there you can see bacteria, viruses, fungi, you can see human DNA. So one of the amazing things of the study is half of the DNA that we found didn't match any known organism.
Yeah, there's nothing about the old infrastructure of the elevated train line and the fact that they're removing these massive pylons, the electrical cables. There's something about seeing all of those pipes and these concrete things that are going to be buried until we're all dead and it breaks and then somebody has to dig it up and replace it that felt related to the fact that you chose the kind of infrastructure, this kind of network of like openings and shafts as a site for this entire mapping of the city.
So Columbus Circle, here's Columbus, here's Columbia. Columbia as the female personification of the United States. And we've got, I hope you're familiar with the birds that are on her arm. Pigeon, that's one name. If anybody knows the Latin, I'll be very impressed. Columba. Columba is the female version of Columbus or Columbo. Let's use them as proxies for Columbus, European worldview coming to North America. Columba, European nature coming to North America.
There are a number of very tall buildings. Their appeal is for the extremely wealthy. When you have such an influx of capital around the world. I mean, the two most popular cities are London and New York, which is also a type of migration. I imagine continual migration between New York and London and New York and London, a different kind of songbird coming to our shores.
There's a lot of different types of bird deterrents, and some of it is made so that humans can't see it. So there's things like these like very thin wires, there's like gel. There's this kind of gel applicant that you can put on the ledge, on the cornice, that where if a bird lands onto it, they can't walk properly. There's also wires that electrify birds, unfortunately.
The estimate's 1 to 10 birds die a year per building. And there's about 1 million buildings in New York City. The number one killer, building-wise, until recently was the Javits Center. But since the overhaul, they put in the frittered glass with the dots, a dot pattern, and they put a green roof on top. And bird fatalities have dropped by 90% over the last 2 years. As a note of hope, you can address these issues.
It's a false waterfall, actually. You think you're going to see something exciting when you get here, and really all that's happening is the water's becoming intubated. Recently, they daylighted parts of the Sawmill River in Yonkers. And what's interesting about that river is, in some areas, the river was just under a parking lot, and that was the first area that they daylit. The land hasn't really been changed so much like it has in Manhattan, so you have a lot of the same topography. So we don't have to feel limited when we imagine what the daylighting of Tibbetts Creek can be, because we know they may have built it over the river. It doesn't mean it can't reemerge.
During a rain event, you have all this stormwater going into a combined sewer along with their sanitary waste. So our treatment plants don't have enough capacity to treat stormwater in addition to our sanitary waste. So what they do is they shut down their gates, so everything goes out into the waterways. We're talking about waste and storm combined into the Harlem River, essentially.
These things weren't planted here. None of these trees were planted here. Nothing's happening in there. And it could be the natural flow of the river could be reinstituted, a daylighting scheme, but also for a flow of people.
If you look at the map, you'll notice how close we really are to Harlem River. It's not even a mile away.
We're extremely close.
It's really possible to get this done one day.
So you are gonna have like each of you are gonna hold this. Each of them is like samples of different fluids we have been collecting around in the surrounding areas.
This is the actual Van Cortlandt Lake. With the damming of Tibet's Brook, this became a freshwater lake. And this is part of a history of the city, New York City, exerting control over the water and the waterways around it.
Now that you have drink the tube, that's actually Jamaica, agua de Jamaica, which is made with hibiscus. Culturally, all the drinks that you are going to be tasting are like cultural drinks that we can sample in the area.